The ruins stood silent under the twin moons. The air was cold, almost too cold for this planet. Vale's ship landed quietly among broken pillars and cracked stone. He was the first to come here in 100 years, maybe more. "Look at this place," Vale whispered. "No one has touched it for centuries." His team spread out, their boots crunching on dust that had not moved for ages. The alien temple was covered in strange symbols. Some glowed faintly under their scanners. Vale stepped forward, pointing at a stone wall. "There, that symbol, it's the same one we found on 3 other planets." His friend Yarrow frowned. "You mean the warning symbol? The one that says do not go to Earth?" Vale nodded. "Yes, every lost civilization had this symbol, and every time the same message." "Why? What is on Earth that scares them all?" Yarrow shook his head. "I thought Earth was just a quiet, weak planet. Nothing dangerous." Vale felt a chill. "Maybe that's what they want us to believe." They moved deeper into the temple. In the center, a hidden door opened with a hiss. Inside was a small room filled with ancient machines and a glowing console. Vale's fingers hovered over the console. "If this works, we might hear the message ourselves." The others gathered close. Vale pressed a button. Static filled the air. Then, a voice old, broken, but clear spoke in their language. "If you find this message, do not come to Earth. You will not survive what sleeps there." Yarrow gasped. "What does it mean? What sleeps there?" Vale's eyes narrowed. "I don't know. But it must be terrible." Suddenly the ground trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. "We should leave," Yarrow said, his voice shaking. Vale hesitated. "No, we need to understand more." The voice played again. "If you are listening, turn back for your own sake." A cold wind blew through the room. Vale felt a strange presence, as if unseen eyes watched them. Yarrow grabbed Vale's arm. "This is a trap." Vale shook his head. "We can't stop now." Suddenly, the console flashed red. The temple's walls began to shift. Doors slammed shut around them. The team was trapped. Panic rose in the group. "How do we get out?" one asked. Vale looked at the symbols on the walls. "This temple is alive. Or cursed. We have to find the control." They split up, searching for an exit. The temple hummed with power. Shadows moved just beyond their sight. Vale returned to the console. The message repeated, but now with a warning added. They hid something here, something so dangerous, even they feared it. Yarrow's voice came from the hallway. "Vale, come quick." "I found a door." Vale rushed to him. The door led to a chamber, filled with ancient artifacts and holograms. One hologram showed Earth, a blue and green jewel in the blackness. A voice echoed from the hologram. "The secret of Earth is not in its land or people, but in the fear it commands." Vale's heart pounded. Fear? What kind of fear? The hologram flickered and showed images of fallen civilizations, destroyed fleets, and ruins. They all came here, learned the secret, and vanished. Suddenly, the temple shook violently. Alarms blared. "We need to leave now." Vale shouted. The team ran back to the console room, but the doors were sealed tight. "We're trapped," Yarrow said. Vale studied the console. "Maybe the message is the key." He pressed a series of symbols. The walls stopped moving. Slowly the doors opened. Outside, the twin moons shone calm again. Vale looked up. This was just the beginning. Yarrow nodded. "If this secret is real, the whole galaxy is in danger." Vale stared at the sky. "We have to find Earth." The ruins held many secrets, but one thing was clear. Every lost civilization left a warning. Earth was no ordinary world. Something terrible slept there, and it was waiting. The space above the planet was quiet. Too quiet. Galactic Command watched the scanner screen with growing concern. Another ship had vanished near Earth. No warning, no explosion, just gone. Commander Rill, The Zalari ship has disappeared again. The watcher said, voice tense. No signals, no distress calls. Rill leaned forward, eyes fixed on the empty spot where the ship had been seconds before. How is that possible? The ship was at Earth's orbit. It should still be there. The room fell silent. No one had an answer. Earth was marked as Zone Red, a place to avoid. Yet curiosity gnawed at Rill. We send another ship, Rill ordered, voice low. This time, send Vale's rescue team. They know more than anyone else. Meanwhile, far below, on Earth's surface, Vale sat inside a small, shadowy ship nestled. In a dense forest, the planet was not what he expected. No humans were visible, no cities, just silence. Where are the people? Yarrow asked, scanning the horizon. There should be millions here, Vale frowned. I don't know, but these ruins, they look fresh, as if abandoned recently. Suddenly, a rustle in the bushes caught their attention. Vale raised his hand, signaling silence. Two figures stepped forward, human, but different. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dark. One spoke in a soft, strange voice. You should not be here. Vale's heart raced. Who are you? The figure smiled, but it was not warm. We are the Watchers. We guard the secret. Yarrow stepped forward. What secret? Why is Earth empty? The Watcher's eyes darkened. Because fear killed us all, Vale blinked. Fear? The Watcher nodded slowly. Fear is alive here. It changes everything. Vale felt a cold shiver. What do you mean? The Watcher raised a hand, and suddenly, the forest around them shifted. Trees twisted into strange shapes. Shadows moved like living things. You cannot leave, the Watcher said. The fear will follow you. Vale's mind raced. He thought of the message buried in the ruins. We must warn the galaxy. The Watcher's voice grew loud, almost angry. There is no warning that can help. Earth is a trap. Suddenly, the ship's alarms blared. Vale's scanner showed. No stars, only endless darkness. Something is blocking us, Vale shouted. We can't leave. Yarrow gripped the controls. We're trapped in orbit. A cold voice echoed in Vale's mind. You cannot escape fear. Vale clenched his fists. I will find a way. But the longer they stayed, the more their thoughts twisted. Memories blurred. Hope faded. On Galactic command, Rill watched helplessly. Earth's pull is stronger than we imagined. The room was tense. Another ship was lost. Another crew trapped. Vale's last message came through, weak but clear. Earth is not empty. It is alive, and it is waiting. Rill whispered, we must decide send help or cut our losses. The screen showed Earth glowing faintly in the darkness and no one knew what waited below. The trees stood still. No wind, no sound. Just silence. Vale stepped out of the ship slowly, scanning the dark forest around him. The sky above was black, without stars. Even the moons were gone. We landed, didn't we? Yarrow asked, his voice low. Vale nodded. Yes, but the planet, it feels wrong. Yarrow looked up, confused. Why can't we see the sky? Vale didn't answer. He was watching the shadows. They were moving, but nothing was there. Something was watching them. He could feel it. They had set up a camp next to a dry river. A broken human building stood nearby, half buried in soil and vines. Strange symbols were scratched into the metal. What does it say? Yarrow asked. Vale read slowly, his eyes narrowing. Don't trust the silence. It sees you. Yarrow took a step back. Who sees us? Before Vale could speak, the wind began, cold, sharp, whispering. But there were no words, just a sound. Like breathing. Vale turned sharply. A figure stood at the edge of the trees, tall, thin, perfectly still. Its eyes glowed faintly, like dying stars. Do you see that? Vale asked. Yarrow didn't move. It's not showing up on my scanner. The figure stood motionless, just watching. No sound. No movement. Not even a blink. Should we talk to it? Yarrow whispered. Vale shook his head. No, it's not here. To talk. Suddenly, the figure was gone. Vale rushed forward, but there were no footprints. No heat. No signs. Yarrow's voice shook. It was right there. They returned to the ship, but something was wrong. The lights flickered. The air felt heavier, like the planet was pressing down on them. That night, Vale couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the figure again closer. Watching the next morning, the sky was still black. Time doesn't feel right here, Vale said. It's like we're not really on Earth. Yarrow checked the systems. The ship says we haven't moved, but our internal clocks are all different. Vale stepped outside again. The forest was gone. In its place stood a vast desert of broken statues, human faces, all looking terrified. This wasn't here yesterday, Yarrow said. Vale touched one of the statues. It crumbled into dust. Suddenly, they heard a voice. Not outside, but inside their minds. You are not alone. Yarrow looked around wildly. Who said that? Vale closed his eyes. It wasn't a person. The shadow returned, this time closer. Its shape was unclear, shifting, changing, always watching. Vale stared at it. What are you? The voice answered again, inside their heads. I am what remains. I am what they feared. Yarrow backed away. This isn't real. This can't be real. But Vale stood still. You're not a creature. You're a thought. The shadow nodded slowly. I was born in fear, fed by it, made real by their minds. Vale's voice dropped to a whisper. The human experiment. It wasn't a weapon. It was a mistake. The shadow stepped closer. They tried to control fear, but fear cannot be controlled. It watches, it waits, it becomes. Yarrow grabbed Vale's arm. We have to go, now. But the ship was gone. Only darkness remained. Vale tried his communicator. Galactic Command, do you read me? No response. Yarrow's voice was full of panic. We're stuck. We're not even on the same Earth anymore. Vale's eyes widened. It's not the planet that traps you. It's the fear. Once you feel it, it builds a cage around your mind. Yarrow shook his head. This is insane. Suddenly, the shadow spoke again. You understand now. That's why I will keep you. Vale stared into the empty blackness. We were warned. Every ruined world tried to tell us. Yarrow whispered. Then why didn't we listen? Vale's voice was cold now. Because we thought Earth was weak. The shadow began to fade. The statues cracked and fell. The desert blew away like dust. And then they were back in the forest. The ship stood where it had been. Was it real? Yarrow asked. Vale didn't answer. He only looked at the scanner. The stars had returned, but the shadow was still there, reflected in the glass. The galaxy believed Earth was quiet, small, safe. Something ancient still watched from its surface. And it never blinked. Vale walked slowly through the underground corridor. The walls were metal, scratched with claw marks, burned and warped. This wasn't a ruin built by nature or war. It was the result of panic. This was a lab, Vale whispered, running his hand along the wall. Human design. Yarrow followed close behind, his scanner buzzing softly. Radiation levels are low. But something's wrong with the air. It's thick, Vale said, breathing heavily. Like it's watching. US breathe. They reached a broken metal door. It had been sealed with multiple locks, all now twisted open by brute force. Yarrow checked the scanner again. There's a life form inside, but only one. Vale nodded and pushed the door open. It creaked loudly, echoing down the empty hall. Inside. The room was filled with shattered glass tanks, crushed chairs, and blinking monitors. In the center sat a single figure. It was human. Or it had been. The man looked up slowly. His eyes were dark, hollow, but aware. "You're not from Earth," the man said, voice dry like dust. Vale stepped closer. "Who are you?" The man smiled. "I was Dr. Kren, head scientist of Project Titan." Yarrow tensed. "Project Titan? What is that?" Kren looked at them, then past them, as if staring through time. "We tried to weaponize fear." Vale froze. "You tried to turn fear into a weapon?" Kren nodded slowly. "Humans learned long ago that fear changes the body. It sharpens the mind. It can save your life. So we thought, what if we could control it, use it, direct it?" He laughed, but there was no joy in it. "But we didn't understand what fear truly was." Yarrow frowned. "It's just emotion." Kren's voice turned cold. "No, it's a force, an ancient one. Older than life itself. It doesn't like being touched." Vale stepped closer. "What happened?" Kren pointed to the broken tanks. "We created a machine to harvest fear. We tested it on animals, then volunteers. At first, it worked. People became stronger, smarter, faster." He paused. "Then it started growing, not in their bodies, in their minds." Yarrow whispered, "You made fear alive." Kren nodded. "Yes, and it began talking back." The lights flickered. Yarrow moved toward the door. "We should leave." But Kren shook his head. "You're already inside the experiment. The moment you stepped on Earth, it began." Vale tried his communicator. Static. Again. "No signal," he said. "It's like we're cut off from the galaxy." Kren stood, bones cracking. "Fear feeds on awareness. The more you know, the deeper you fall. That's why they left messages in ruins. That's why they begged others not to come." Vale asked, "Why didn't you destroy it?" Kren laughed again. "We tried, but you cannot kill fear. Not if it lives in your thoughts." Suddenly, alarms blared. "Containment breach." A voice repeated in the room. "Containment breach. Fear levels critical." Yarrow shouted, "What does that mean?" Kren's face twisted. "It means it knows you're here." The door slammed shut behind them. The walls pulsed with heat. Shadows formed along the edges of the room, crawling up like vines. Vale looked around. "How do we stop it?" "You can't," Kren said calmly. "You can only survive it." The shadows took shape figures, tall and thin, eyes glowing. Vale had seen them before. Yarrow raised his weapon. "They're not real." "Wrong," Kren whispered. "They're made from your fear. That makes them more real than anything else." One of the shadow figures turned to Vael. It had his face. Vale gasped. "What is that?" Kren stepped between them. "It's you. The worst version of you. That's how it feeds." The shadow lunged. Kren grabbed Vale and shoved him toward the console. "Use the override," Kren shouted. "Enter this. Code E304 Delta Zeta." Vale's hands shook as he typed. The room screamed literally. A high-pitched, human-like scream rang through the metal. Yarrow fell to the floor, holding his head. "Make it stop." Vale pressed the final key. Light exploded from the walls. The shadows twisted, burned, and vanished. The door opened. Silence. Only. Kren remained now just a body, lifeless. "He gave his mind to stop it," Vale said quietly. Yarrow sat up. "We need to leave." They rushed back through the hallway, but everything had changed. The walls were new again. The claw marks were gone. The doors were clean. "It reset," Vale whispered. "Like nothing ever happened." Outside, the sky was still dark. But a voice came through the communicator. "This is Galactic Command." "Do you read?" Vale answered quickly. "We're alive. But Earth is worse than we thought. Did you find the truth?" The voice asked. Vael looked up at the sky, then down at the ground. Double quotes. "No, we found fear, and it found us. Somewhere deep below the surface, in the silence of Earth's forgotten labs. The experiment still waited. Not locked in metal, but in memory. And fear never forgets. The ship was ready. Engines hummed softly. Lights on the dashboard turned green one by one. Vale stood in the cockpit, eyes locked on the sky above Earth. No clouds. No stars, just black, endless and heavy. We're clear to launch, Yarrow sighed, hands moving quickly over controls. If we leave now, we might escape the fear field. Vale didn't respond. His hands tightened around the seat rail. I don't think it will let us go. Yarrow forced a small laugh. It's just a planet, Vale. It can't stop us. Vale looked out the front window. It's not the planet. It's what was left behind. The engines roared. The ship rose from the surface, climbing fast. The forest below shrank. Mountains faded into mist. Earth became a gray curve below them. See? Yarrow said. Smooth flight. One more push, and we'll be out of orbit. Vale checked the scanners. Are we gaining distance? Yarrow nodded. Yes, but slowly. Then something changed. The stars didn't appear. The curve of Earth didn't shrink. Yarrow frowned. That's not right. He pressed more buttons. The ship shook. What's going on? Vale asked. We're climbing, Yarrow said, his voice tight. But we're not leaving. Vale stared at the data. Altitude increasing, but location not changing. Yarrow looked up. It's a loop. We're stuck in a spatial loop. They weren't leaving the planet. The space around them was folding, pulling them back like a rubber band. Suddenly, the stars blinked out one by one like candles in the dark. Did you see that? Yarrow whispered. Vale's voice was calm, but low. We're still inside the fear. The ship alarm started. Red lights flashed. Warning. Navigation systems offline. Warning. External reality unstable. Vale touched the window. It's not space. Out there, it's thought. Memory. Fear given shape. The sky outside twisted. Black turned to gray, then to blood red. Shadows crawled along the ship's hull like oil. I think it's reading us, Yarrow said. Like a mirror for the mind. The shadows took shape faces, familiar ones. Yarrow's brother. Vale's old mentor. People they had lost. People who had died. They're not real, Vale said. They feel real, Yarrow whispered. His hands trembled. The ship dropped suddenly. Hard. The lights flickered. Gravity shift detected. Danger. Unknown force present. They fell straight. Down but not back to Earth. The world outside now looked like a tunnel of broken memories. A hallway of screaming faces. Yarrow clutched his seat. Where are we going? Vale closed his eyes. We're going deeper. The ship crashed onto something solid, but there was no sound. No real impact, just stillness. They opened the door. Outside was a flat, endless plain of black glass. Above them, nothing. No sky, no sun. Where are we? Yarrow asked. Vale stepped forward. This is what the experiment created. This is where fear lives. A voice echoed not from a speaker, not from the air, but inside their minds. You tried to leave. Why? Vale looked around. We don't belong here. The voice replied. You do now. You brought your fear with you. That's the price. Suddenly, the plane cracked. Towers rose from the glass like teeth. Each tower had a door. Each door had a name. Vale walked to one. His own name was carved into the metal. He touched the handle. The doors swung open. Inside was a perfect copy of the ruins they had visited. Except this time, he was lying dead on the floor. I don't like this, Yarrow said. It's too quiet. Too controlled, Vale nodded. It's a cage, a mental one. It feeds by making you feel hopeless. Yarrow turned. Then we don't give up. They ran back to the ship. The plane began to twist and melt. Reality broke apart in slow motion. Back. Inside, the ship's systems flickered to life again. Vale stared at the navigation screen. Look, one star had returned, a real one. Yarrow's eyes widened. A crack in the field? Vale nodded. Maybe, or maybe it's a lie. They had no choice. Jaro pushed the engines to max. The ship moved forward through broken light, past the glass towers and toward the tiny star. The voice returned. Escape is not possible. You are inside yourself now. Vale shouted. Then we fight our own minds. The ship shook violently. The star grew larger. The voices screamed. Images appeared, fearful, violent, painful. Yarrow covered his ears. I can't. Vale reached out and placed his hand on Yarrow's. Don't let it win. It's just fear. It only has power if we believe it. The ship passed through the star. Light flooded the cabin, and then silence. Real silence. Outside space was normal again. The stars were steady. The black was real. We're out, Yarrow said. We made it. Vale leaned back, breathing slowly, not fully. It's still inside us. The communicator crackled. This is Command Station 7. Please identify, Vale responded. This is Vale. We've returned. But Earth is not a planet anymore. What is it, sir? Vale stared at the stars. A prison. Made from thought. And once you're inside, escape is not possible. But he didn't tell them the final truth. That part of them was still trapped, watching. Vale sat alone in the quiet chamber of the Galactic Science Council. The lights were low. The air felt heavy. In his hands he held a small black data crystal, the only thing they had managed to bring back from Earth's orbit. Yarrow stepped in quietly. They're ready to hear it. Vale nodded slowly. They're not going to believe it. They didn't believe the last 10 ships either, Yarrow said. They just want answers. Vale stood, still holding the crystal. Then let's give them one truth they can't ignore. Moments later, he stood before the council, a circle of the most powerful minds from across the galaxy. Their faces were serious, curious, but not afraid. That would change. State your findings. One of them said. Vale placed the crystal on the console. This contains footage from the ruins we found beneath Earth's surface. It shows what humans discovered long ago and why every civilization that visited Earth was destroyed. He activated the file. A hologram lit the room. An image appeared. A large underground room with ancient machines, screens, and a glowing structure in the center. A voice began to speak, recorded long ago by a human scientist. This is Dr. Elin Cross, last survivor of the Earth Research Corps. If you're watching this, you've found the center. This is where it began, and where it must end. The image zoomed in on a strange device shaped like a black sphere, pulsing slowly. We didn't mean to build it, the recording continued. We only wanted to understand why fear exists. In every species, why it controls so much. But the more we studied it, the more it responded. Yarrow whispered beside Vale. It learned, the voice continued. We called it the core of fear. At first, it copied our thoughts. Then it grew. It began creating its own fears, monsters we'd never imagined. And once it understood us, it became us. The council sat in silence, watching, listening. The hologram shifted again. It showed a different scene, an alien world, burned and broken. A single message was carved into a rock wall. Earth must be sealed. We failed. Another image, another world. Then another, all dead. All with the same symbol. A circle with a vertical line through it, the mark of Earth. One of the council members leaned forward. Are you saying every lost civilization died because of Earth? Vale looked around the room. No, not because of Earth. Because they couldn't resist Earth. He paused. They all came to study the same thing. Fear. It's a natural emotion, right? But on Earth, it wasn't just emotion. It was power, raw, living power. Yarrow stepped in. The humans triggered it. They made it stronger, but they couldn't destroy it. So they tried to hide it. Vale pointed to the council. Every ancient empire, every species that vanished without explanation, left behind the same warning. Some in writing, some buried in ruins, some hidden in DNA, but they all said the same thing. He paused, voice quiet now. Stay away. From Earth, one member stood. Then why didn't your minds break when you returned? Vale's face turned grim. Who says we're the same? Silence. The council looked at them closely. Vale continued. We got out, but something stayed with us. Something cold. Something watching. Yarrow added, it doesn't follow you like a shadow. It waits inside you, quiet, until you remember it. Vale looked at his hand, still trembling. Every night, I dream of that black plane, of the towers with names. One of those towers is still calling. Another counselor spoke. And if we ignore Earth? Vale answered quickly. It will wait, it's patient. But someone someday will get curious, and when they do, it will feed again. The chamber went dark for a moment. Then the data crystal began to glow out without being touched. A voice echoed through the hall cold. Metallic and ancient, you brought me with you. Yarrow stepped back. That wasn't in the recording. The lights flickered. One council member collapsed, screaming. His eyes wide open, but empty. His mind is gone. Someone said "VAEL." Grabbed the crystal and crushed it under his boot. The glow vanished. The silence returned. Do you believe us now? Vale said that the head of the council stood slowly. We do. He looked at the others. From this day forward, Earth is to be erased from all navigation charts. Forbiddens. No contact. No research. No memory. But, another whispered, we've already remembered it. Vale nodded. And now we all carry it. Somewhere far from the council chamber, in the cold edges of deep space, a small ship drifted silently. Its signal was weak. Its crew alien scientists spoke quietly. There it is, one of them said, pointing at the screen. A small blue planet, Class 3, long ignored, the captain smiled. Let's see what secrets it hides. As the ship entered Earth's orbit, the stars around them blinked out, and the cycle began again. Vale stood on the bridge of the old warship, staring out at the endless stars. The memory of Earth's fear still clung to him like a shadow. Do you think it's truly gone? Yarrow asked quietly behind him. Vale didn't turn. No, it changed us, Yarrow sighed. How? Vale's voice was low but steady. Fear became more than just feeling. It became power. We survived because we learned to control it. Yarrow frowned. Control fear? Or let it control you? Vale smiled faintly. That's the question. We learned to use it as a weapon. Yarrow looked around. You mean what we saw on Earth's ruins, the experiment? Vale nodded. Yes, they tried to destroy fear. Instead, they became it. Suddenly, the ship's alarm blared. Red lights flashed. Incoming signal. The comm officer said "VAEL" approached the console. The screen flickered to life. A fleet of alien ships appeared, dark, menacing, advancing fast. Hostile fleet, the officer said. Vale's eyes narrowed. Prepare for battle. This is the test. To see if we have become the weapon. Yarrow looked at Vale, concern in his eyes. We're ready. The alien fleet opened fire. Lasers cut through space. Explosions lit the void. Vale felt the familiar rush, that raw power of fear sharpening his senses. The enemy ship's captain spoke through the comm. Voice cold. You carry the fear of Earth. Surrender now, or be destroyed. Vale answered calmly. Fear is not a weakness. It is our strength. The battle raged. Vale's crew fought fiercely, their fear sharpened into skill and courage. Suddenly, Vale saw a shadow move in the enemy fleet's formation, a shape like the Watchers they had seen on Earth. They use fear too, Yarrow said. But they hide behind it. Vale made a decision. Target their command ship. Break their control. The warship surged forward, dodging blasts, closing the distance. Inside the enemy ship, the captain felt the pressure. The fear was growing stronger, not from outside, but inside their own minds. Vale's ship blasted through their shields, and the enemy command ship fell silent. The battle ended. Vale looked at his crew. We survived. Not because we were fearless, because we used our fear. Yarrow smiled. We became the weapon they feared. Vale stared at the stars again. But now we must control it, or it will control us. The command deck was dark, except for the soft glow of blinking consoles. Vale stood alone, staring at the holographic map of Earth. "This is it," he said quietly. "The last chance to lock it away forever." Yarrow joined him, tension heavy. "In the air, are you sure this will work?" Vale nodded. "We have the code from Dr. Kren's logs. If we activate the lockdown, Earth's fear core will be sealed deep beneath the surface. No one can access it again." Yarrow frowned. "But what if it fights back? What if it tries to trap us like before?" Vale's eyes met his friend's. "Then we fight. We can't let fear win." They started the sequence. The ship shook as ancient machines deep below Earth's crust powered on, energy levels rising. Yarrow said, fingers flying over the controls. Suddenly, the lights flickered. An eerie whisper filled the room, a cold voice in their minds. "You cannot lock me away. I am everywhere." Vale gritted his teeth. "Ignore it. Keep going." The whisper grew louder, more urgent. Shadows flickered in the corners of the room, twisting and reaching. Yarrow struggled to focus. "It's trying to break our minds." Vale pressed the final button. The ship shuddered violently. "Lockdown sequence activated," the computer announced. Outside, the ground trembled. A deep rumble echoed through Earth's core. But then, silence. The screens showed the fear core's power dropping, fading like a dying star. Vale sighed with relief. "It's working." Then, the communicator crackled. "Commander Vale, this is Galactic Command. We detect a massive energy surge from Earth's surface. Are you safe?" Vale smiled faintly. "We're alive. And we just locked the nightmare away." Yarrow looked at him. "Do you think it's over?" Vale shook his head. "Fear never dies. It just waits." As the ship prepared to leave Earth's orbit, Vale glanced back at the planet. A single light flickered deep below the surface, small but alive. And in that darkness, something waited. Waiting for the next visitor. The final lockdown was complete. The secret buried. The fear caged. But some things, once awakened, never truly sleep.